those are things, again, that are out of my control. And I think, I think part of, like, if, for example, my team, being on the Patriots, I never chose, when you're a player, you never choose your teammates. They just come and they sit next to you. And you got to find a way to get along with everybody. And I think the great part for team sports about me, is the relationships with all the guys. And now I know guys, I know guys who came from, wealthy backgrounds, like guys who came from nothing, guys who came from the inner city, guys that came from good high schools, shitty high schools, from Florida, from Texas, California, the Midwest. You develop these relationships with all these different people, and you got to find ways to connect on different levels with different guys. And even now, I'll be 43 this year. A lot of my teammates will be, 22. So I got to connect with the 22-year-olds. And
the Red Sox are coming off wins in their previous 2 games.
Things that
Hi, and welcome to MVP Baseball. This is Dwayne Kuiper with Mike Krukow. Should be a great night for a ball game.
Were you self-conscious?
Looking forward to a good game, and we're set to go. Starting for the home team, Kurt Schilling.
And being the guy who gets all the press. Did you ever feel
tonight's American League game is between the Oakland Athletics and the Boston Red Sox.
I've never felt any jealousy.
Here's the game's first batter, Mark Kotsay.
In 20 years of pro sports, I never felt one thing that I've always felt a great connection with my teammates. And I think my teammates give so much to me, and in return, I feel like I give so much back to them. Because in sports, you can only do what you do. You can't, me as a quarterback, I have a skill set for only a quarterback. If I was to play any other position, I couldn't even play high school football in any other position. But the specific traits of a quarterback, I actually have all those things. Now, I couldn't catch the ball, I can't run the ball, I can't tackle. So I really need everyone else to do those things as well. So for me, it was about, embracing those guys and what they did so that I could do what I do.
So you never go to a guy after a game and say, you know what, I put that fucking pass right in your chest. How did you drop this thing? I mean, the frustration, I would imagine, when you throw a good pass, but you never would sit there and say to a guy, I got to talk to you about this because it's burning me up.
No, that way I've never said that, and I would never say that, because you got to believe people don't want to fuck up. I mean, people, It's really important to them, especially on the pro level. Now, if a guy's not giving great effort, or he's, being an asshole, I can talk to him about that. And I would never confront him in a way. I would just say, I do it in a different way. Like, my leadership is more about, connecting with someone than, being calling them out in front of, my teammates.
Would you ever go to the coach? Would you ever go to Belichick and say, listen, coach, I've thrown passes to this guy week after week. He's fucking up. You got to get him out of here. I mean, I could see you saying that. I know you feel guilty in a way because you don't want to see anybody lose their job, but you got to do that for the good of the team, no?
I would say, I don't have any trust that this guy can, help us, win the game. I mean, I can definitely express my opinion to say, if you put him out there, I'm not going to throw him the ball, because I don't, the whole team is trusting me to do what's right by the team. So you can't put someone out there that I don't believe in, because if I don't believe in them, then it's worthless for the team. And then I think, fortunately for me, Coach Belichick always saw it the same way as me, which is why I think we have such a great connection, because he saw football very much the same way that I saw it. And all the coaches, that I work with on a daily basis, they want the same thing, which I think that culture for winning in that system, which was why I was a great fit for that system, because we saw the process of winning very much the same way. And I could push guys, but they would push them too. And I think there was always a little, if a guy needed a pat on the back, then I think I could notice that and give that to him if he needed it. But rarely did I ever need to go up and tell the guy, listen, you're fucking the team. I think he would know that from someone else before I would ever have to get to him.
Is there a racial self-consciousness in that you're the great white quarterback? You're on a team with obviously a lot of black players. Is there a division? You know what I'm talking about, the camaraderie. Do you ever feel self-conscious, like somehow, maybe even some kind of guilt for being the leader of the team?
Never. Never once, I would say again, never once have I felt that that's the point. Like, I never saw race. I think sports transcends race. It transcends wealth. It transcends all that. I mean, you get to know and you appreciate what someone else may bring, and whatever they bring. I think when you're in a locker room of 50 guys, you don't think about race. You don't think about, because you're all the same at that point. There's no, it doesn't matter who's married, who's single, who's got kids, who doesn't have kids, white, black, whatever it is, you figure out how to get along. And I think that's, sports teaches you about life in that way, and it's very natural. Because
so no guy ever mixed it up with you and said, you know what, Brady, you don't know what it's like. You got it good. You've got, you're a white privileged guy. You don't know where I came from. I would imagine there are some resentments, and in the same way that, like, and I don't know if the book will ever be written by you, but even with Belichick, again, I don't know a lot about sports, but I do know about working for people who sometimes got jealous of me. I mean, I literally had bosses in my career that weren't pulling for me in a weird way. They didn't like me getting the credit. I literally had a boss say to me, I don't know why they keep writing articles about you, Stern. I'm the guy who's running this company. And it was debilitating to me. I left. But with you and Belichick, to me, Tom, it's like you're the guy throwing the football, and I understand he's the coach, and I know he's a brilliant guy. But it's got to be somewhat annoying when there's always this question, Tom Brady, greatest of all time, but if he didn't have Belichick, he wouldn't have achieved, because Belichick is the brains there. And I imagine in some level there were times you laid down at night and went, fuck this guy and fuck all of that, because I know it was me. I'm the one studying the tapes and coming up week after week with a new game plan for myself so that other teams don't recognize my pattern. It wasn't Belichick. In your legacy, does that go through your head?
I think it's a pretty shitty argument, actually, that people would say that, because, again, I can't do his job and he can't do mine.
Right.
So the fact that you could say, would I be successful without him, the same level of success, I don't believe I would have been. But I feel the same in vice versa as well. To have him allowed me to be the best I could be. So I'm grateful for that. And I very much believe that he feels the same about me, because we've expressed that to each other.
But Tom, isn't there some resentment on your but Tom, isn't there some resentment on your part that he didn't make you a patriot for life? In other words,
no, absolutely not. No, because this is a part for me in my life to experience something very different. And there's ways for me to grow and evolve in a different way that I haven't had the opportunity to do, that aren't right or wrong, that's just right for me. So,
but how did this whole thing go down? But Tom, this is the curiosity, because you haven't spoken about it yet, and I'm kind of curious too, because I look at it this way. Tom Brady has accomplished everything a man can accomplish in football. I mean, you are the greatest of all time. Joe Namath was on my show. He said, there's just no debating it. It's not even a question, Joe Montana, this one or that one. You're the greatest of all time. You've achieved it. And I imagine you sat down, I don't know if you do it with your wife or you sit down with a friend, and you say, why would I leave New England to go to a new team? I'm 42 years old. It's not like I'm 30. I've achieved everything. Let's say I go to Tampa and I do okay. It's like, why not stop right now and just say, that's my legacy. I've done it all. I've got nothing left to prove. I'm not really injured badly. I haven't had 20,000 concussions. What is this decision all about? I mean, it's just... it's mind-blowing to me in a sense, and I understand it, but I'm also questioning it,
Well, I don't. That's a lot of questions you just asked.
Yeah, I know. I'm not even sure what the question is.
I don't care. Yeah, either am I. But I would say I never cared about legacy. I mean, I could give a shit about. I never once when I was in high school said, man, I can't wait for what my football legacy looks like. I mean, it's just not me. That's not my personality. So why would I choose a different place? It's because it was just time. I don't know what to say other than that. Like, I had done everything. I accomplished everything I could in 2 decades with an incredible organization, incredible group of people, and that will never change. And no one can ever take that away from me. No one can ever take those experiences or Super Bowl championships away from us.
But there were rumors 2 years ago, Tom. There were rumors 2 years ago that Belichick was thinking about bringing in a new QB, you know. And then sometimes I think with him, he also wants to prove that he could create a great team without Tom Brady. Like, he has the opposite thing going on, right?
Sure.
Did that influence your decision, though, when you heard that rumor? Did you say, fuck this guy. I am giving my life to this team. I've won everything they've wanted to win. You know what I mean? Where's his loyalty? Did that influence your decision?
I think he has a lot of loyalty, and I think he and I have had a lot of conversations that nobody's ever been privy to, and nor should they be, that so many wrong assumptions were made about our relationship or about how he felt about me. I know genuinely how he feels about me. Now, I'm not going to respond to every rumor or assumption that's made, other than what his responsibility as coach is to try to get the best player for the team, not only in the short term, but in the long term as well. So what I could control was trying to be the best I could be in both of those situations also. So I got into uncharted territory as an athlete because I started to break the mold of what, so many other athletes had experienced. So I got to a point where I was an older athlete, and he started to plan for the future, which is what his responsibility is. And I don't fault him for that. I mean, that's what he should be doing. That's what every coach should be doing. Not that I would ever coach, but, if I'm ever in a position of authority, I would understand that too.
What was your thought process, though?
Like we talked about it.
When did you decide, I want to leave New England and I want to go to a new team? Like, when was that decision made?
I don't think there was a final decision, until it happened. But I would say I probably knew before the start of last season that it was my last year. And I tried to, I knew that, it was just, our time was, our time was coming to an end.
So do you discuss that with you? Do you discuss it with your wife? Do you say, listen, I think this is time. I still want to play the game. I'm going to go feel out other teams. I'm going to have my agent reach out to other teams. Did you immediately hear I don't know how that's done, but did you hear from every team in the NFL?
No, I heard from a lot of them. I mean, I think there was there was a time where before last offseason, I had a contract that got restructured, and then basically, from my standpoint, I knew that at the end of the year I was going to become a free agent for the first time in my career. And I had spoken about it with the ownership of the team, Mr. Kraft, and he was good with it. I had spoken about it with Coach Belichick. He was good with it, and that's what we decided to do. And if, we, over the course of the season and the off season, there wasn't a ton of substantial conversations for us to continue. We had some, and we both thought about it. And then in the end, it was just a great way to end 2 decades. We had a great conversation about, there's nothing, I've said this before, there's no bigger fan of the New England Patriot organization than me, but at the same time, that doesn't mean that I was going to play, I could continue to play there at the highest level. And I feel like I want to prove to myself that I can still perform at the highest level.
Did you go over to Bob Kraft's house and sit there and say, hey, Bob, this is it, we're done? And do you call, where do you go to make that announcement to these guys who you've, spent your whole career with?
I called up, Mr. Kraft, and I went over to his house, and I just said, and it was a funny time because we're all dealing with, this current, situation, the corona situation that we're in, and and I went over and I said, look, I just want to say, how much I love you and appreciate what we've done together, and I know that we're not going to continue together, but that thank you, thank you for providing what you have for my family and for my career. And then I was able to call Coach Belichick at the same time and thank him, and it was great. I mean, I wouldn't have had it any other way. And
that's it. Just a phone call. Just a phone call to Belichick. You don't get together with him personally, and
I couldn't, because I wanted to tell Mr. Kraft, and then I had no opportunity to drive. It was 9:30 at night on whatever night, Monday night or Tuesday night of March, and there was no opportunity for me. But I wanted to tell him right away, in the moment, because too many times in this world. I would say something, someone else would say it. Before he'd hear from someone else. I wanted to hear from me.
Were there tears?
How I felt about. Yeah, I was crying. I mean, I'm a very emotional person. So
I bet.
I think I play with my. I would say I'm a very emotional because I have I have a deep caring for the people that I've worked with, and I wish nothing but the best for them. And
but what does that mean, Tom? Competitively, don't you when I left America's Got Talent, I wished that the show gone off the air. Whenever I leave a radio station, I'm like, fuck you guys. I hope you all die. You do not. What kind of season do you hope for New England, if there is even a season?
I have a lot of friends there, so I want them to do great.
You want them to win the Super Bowl against you?
Well, no, I want my team to win the Super Bowl. So that goes.
So how well do you want New England to do? I don't understand this. I mean, to me, I think you should unfriend Bob Kraft on Facebook. I really do.
Wouldn't it be great to beat New England? Come on.
Yeah, come on. You want to beat New England now.
It would be.
Can you imagine Tom Brady in the Super Bowl again? You're at Tampa, and New England is the other team you're against.
I want to beat anybody. That's what I want to just beat them. I want to beat anybody. So I now play for a different team that has its own. I want to beat whoever we play. Whoever they're playing is irrelevant to me. So they could do great, and they will do great. They got a great team. They got great process. They got great coaches. They got so many great players.
But that's the best ticket, Tom. The best ticket is you against New England.
Yeah, I like that one. By the way, do you think there's even going to be football this season? Do you think there's going to be football this season with coronavirus? Like, could you play? I guess you wouldn't care. You would play if there's no fans in the stadium, right?
I think so. I mean, I would assuming. I mean, I hope everything can get under control pretty quickly, but I don't know. I don't think anyone has any really great predictions for how this is going to turn out.
I do.
I'm sure. I know there's contingency plans. What do you know, Howard? What
do I know? I know that. Listen,
any insight from you?
This thing ain't going to be over. This coronavirus, in by Easter, like Trump said, it's just not. It's not happening, man. We're in this for the long haul. So I don't know.
But can you play in masks and shields? Come on.
I'll play with you in a mask and shield. You know me, Tom. But here's the thing. The new I think I'm going to say something here, and you tell me whether I'm right or wrong. I think football, from a business standpoint, is a bullshit sport. You guys are entertainers. This is how I looked at it. I've said it for years. And Tom Brady going to Tampa is going to generate so much money for that team. It's mind-boggling. And I've read about the contract and that it's a guaranteed $50 million for 2 years. Like, they even have to pay you if there's no football this year, which is great. And, and for anybody sitting at home who doesn't have work, hearing about $50 million is kind of mind-blowing. But here's the deal. That team is going to make so much money with Tom Brady, and this whole bullshit with salary caps and all this thing, to me, Tom Brady should be probably making $100 million and sharing in the profits of that team, because you're going to put Tampa on the map. And really, isn't that the truth?
I mean, would I love for it to be that way? Yeah, I would. But I mean, there's a lot of. I mean, there's a lot to that. I mean, there's a lot of business arguments, and I'm all for the players. I'm all for the game. And I believe also when you're an owner of a business, you're the one that assumes a lot of risk too.
But it's not a business owner. It's a lot. There's no competition. And the thing is, if you were a singer, if you were any other kind of performer, you'd be making hundreds of millions of dollars if you were the greatest of all time. You'd be the Beatles. You're the Beatles of football.
Sure.
And those guys made plenty of dollars.
I'm an employee. And I think when you're an employee, you're subject to whatever different negotiations. We have a players union, and Major League Baseball has one, and I think it's a very convoluted conversation piece. Who deserves more? The players or the owners? I think the owners take a lot of risk in buying it, and the players take a lot of risk in playing it. And because it's a great business, there's a lot of money to go around for everybody. I want the players to be compensated fairly for what I believe we provide to the game, and I think we try to negotiate those things. We do them in a collective way where it's not Tom Brady negotiating, it's our entire players union negotiating, and we just finished a big negotiation. And I don't think the players, I think the players over the years, like a lot of players, I fought a lot harder before us to get to where the game is now for the players.
How hard was it for you to watch the Super Bowl this year and see this guy pulling a Tom Brady, out of his ass and winning the game at the last minute? Were you sitting there jealous as hell? Like, were you like
out of his ass? That's a guy. He's pretty spectacular. I love that. That guy's an incredible player. So he's done a great job. I mean, he's a great young player, and there's a lot of other great young players, and everyone does the job a little differently. But it's tough always when you're not playing. But we didn't deserve to be there, so I'm not going to hate on the fact that they were. They deserved it. So may the best team win. That's sports.
Gary and I were talking last night that you were coming on, and Gary said, "Hey, I was talking to Tom's agent." And Tom's agent reminded me, I don't think I've ever told this story on the air, that Tom Brady and I were supposed to be in a Super Bowl commercial together. And
yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, I didn't. I completely blocked it out.
Why didn't you do it?
I'll tell you why I didn't do it. It was a weird thing. This was years ago. And, and when your agent brought it up, I said to Gary, I said, man, the guy's right. I barely remember that story, but it was weird. I mean, just the thought of being in a Super Bowl commercial with Tom Brady really appealed to me. And when my agent called me and said it, and then he goes, well, here's what the commercial is. It's for Intel computer chips. And they were introducing a product called 360 where you can be seen at all angles. And so first they'll show Tom Brady at all angles, and he'll look perfect and beautiful. And then like me, like Danny DeVito in Twins, then they're going to show you, and at every angle you're going to look bad. And I said to my agent, fuck this. Are you kidding me? You know what? Let Tom Brady look bad. I want to look good. I mean, I don't want to be on there. I still want to get laid. At the end of the day, I don't want to be the joke. I didn't like being the brunt of the joke, Tom.
I understand. I have a different Howard Stern story. Can I tell you? You don't probably remember this, but I met you. This was in the Hamptons. It was at a polo event, and Jay-Z was there, and this was probably in 2002, 2003, something like that. And I flew out there because my friends were having this party at this big polo field, and like Rihanna was like driving around in a car in the middle of the field, and there was a tent. And you were there, and I got introduced to you, and you kind of big-timed me. So I thought, wow, you were kind of at a big, you were making a big, I don't know if you already transitioned to Sirius at that time, but you were a pretty big deal. So that was my first Howard Stern experience.
Tom, what do you mean he big-timed you?
He just was, there's a lot of people wanted Howard's attention, so I can understand
and he
that.
blew you off.
Do you want to know something?
He did, Robin. Can you believe that?
Oh, man.
Can I tell you something, Tom? I don't even remember meeting you ever, and I'll tell you why. My wife brought me to this.
Event?
Yes, I absolutely do, because I remember Jay-Z came out and he goes, I want to introduce everyone to my artist. And I was like, oh, that's weird, his artist. And then Rihanna came out and she was walking around and went, oh, what a beautiful looking woman. But, she was like a kid or something. And all I can remember is, I don't know anything about polo. I don't want to be at this event. I'm antisocial. And my wife said, come on, be a little bit, social. Let's go. It'll be fun. And I remember being just incredibly miserable. And quite frankly, I probably didn't even know I was being introduced to. I was just plotting my exit. You know what I mean? I
do.
I swear to you. By the way, your love
terrible,
story.
Howard. That was terrible.
I know. I'm sorry. But you know what, Tom? I got to tell you, that story turns me on, because you need a couple of people big timing you. You're getting a little too full of yourself, honestly.
Right.
You really do.
Yeah.
It's the God's honest truth. How is Giselle handling quarantine? I'm more concerned about her, quite frankly. Is she doing okay? I mean, I imagine in quarantine you have no people in the house with you but the kids and your wife.
Yeah.
But Gary said you had an assistant there.
Yeah, he's helped, because I've had this big move. So I've tried to move everything. My wife was in Costa Rica. We've had a house there for a long time, and then she brought the kids up here to kind of start their homeschool. I think their Zoom works better than our Zoom that we tried today. But she was basically in Costa Rica, just at the house. And then when she came up here, she's handling it really good. I mean,
is she cleaning?
She's a very, she's probably very different than how people would probably see her, what's been portrayed, as a fashion model. She's a very, just a spiritual woman. She believes in trying to heal herself, and, she does her meditation, and she tries to work on herself a lot.
What kind of meditation are you guys doing?
She does probably some more different types than I do. I'm not kind of a sit in the corner of the room meditator, but I'll do some things I'll do that on occasion with her. Her practice is a little better and more consistent than mine. My meditation for me is more in a gym, like working out is a very meditative place for me. So I'm probably more of an active meditator, different than, because I can find maybe a little more balance there. She kind of is she's a very high energy person too, so the meditation helps her, I think, in a way, find a little more centered. But
how strong are you in the gym? What are you bench pressing, Tom? How much can you bench?
How much can I bench? I don't do too many weights anymore, so I do more. I'm about 230 pounds, so that's kind of where I always have been for a while. So I'm not a big weightlifter. That's not how I train. I probably do more. I use a lot of bands, resistance bands. I do a lot of pool workouts. I try to get a lot of, I'm not trying to injure myself in the weight room anymore like I did when I was younger. So I'm much more into having the right amount of strength and the right functional strength, but I'm not trying to go injure myself by doing too many things heavy.
And you've switched your whole diet up, right? I mean, I don't know if you were part of that documentary on Netflix where most people are going to plant-based diets. I have.
Yeah.
I find it's tremendous.
Nice.
You're doing it, right?
Yeah. Well, I think over the years, like I said, when I wanted to become a great athlete, I started thinking about, where are my advantages? I wasn't going to run faster, jump higher, but if I could eat a little bit better, give my body what it needs. I started, taking vitamins probably earlier than now. I think it's more of a vitamin craze, but I started taking vitamins in the 2000s, and I started to, every year get a little bit better with my diet, and now it's just kind of the way that I would naturally eat. I wouldn't even call it a diet, but I try to eat healthy most of the time, not 100% of the time, because I think that never worked for me, to like food restriction and stuff like that. I probably was more if I wanted to try something, I'd try it. But I'm not going to eat like a lot of shitty meals over the course of the week. I mean, I'll eat pretty good breakfast and pretty good lunches, and if we go out for dinner, I'll be a little less restrictive. But I would say I eat healthy because it's really been my career. I've needed my body to perform well, because if my body didn't perform well, then I couldn't make any money. So I needed to take care of my body.
I'm always shocked that you want to keep playing because of that. I mean, listen, you have been incredibly lucky. Okay, you've had some injuries, you had a knee injury, all this stuff, but you've avoided concussion, right? I mean, have you had concussions?
Yeah, I've definitely had concussions playing. Yeah.
But I mean,
definitely
you're a healthy dude. You're pretty healthy, and it's like you don't sit there and sweat that at your age and say, you know what, fuck it, I'm leaving New England. What do I need this aggravation for? I got a great life, got a great wife, got great kids. Maybe it's just time.
Jeez, what is he going to announce his retirement here?
Yeah, well, that's what I would do. I mean, you know what, Tom's done.
But I think,
you're not.
I think if you learned anything from like what's going on in this day and age. Even, as it relates to Kobe Bryant, like Kobe thought he had a long life too,
Right.
And I mean, nobody loved him. I mean, I loved watching Kobe play. I think in a lot of ways, he and I had the same mentality. And, we had a great connection because of the mindset. And when I look at his life, we all think we're going to live forever.
Right.
But the reality is we don't know when our day's going to come. So I could sit here and go, well, stop playing football so I could, worry about what's going to happen or worry about this or that, instead of saying, why don't I live my life the way that I want and enjoy it, in the ways that are going to be most fulfilling to me, which for me is doing what I love to do. You don't tell a musician stop singing, at age of 42. You don't tell a great painter stop painting at 42. Now, if you want to stop, go ahead. But for me, because I feel like I can still play, doesn't mean I should just stop playing because that's what everyone's telling me to do.
You know what else I admire about you? I admire the fact that, that you're a family man, and this is kind of interesting to me, and I think this shows me you're well-adjusted. Your life could have been very different. You could have, you're a good-looking dude. You could be fucking any woman you want. I kind of admire that at some point, okay, you stopped the party, you said no. And it seems to me like you have the ability to say no to yourself a lot. Like you have the ability to say, no, I'm not going to go out and party. No, I'm not going to, maybe slack off for a week when we have a big game coming up. And even with your personal life, with drugs or drinking, and even with women. I mean, as far as I know, you and Giselle have this solid relationship. It's a great romance. It seems from the outside like a great romance. And part of that is because you were able to turn off and say, yeah, I could have this one and that one, but I'm just going to be happy with what I have.
Yeah.
I admire that. How'd you learn how to do that?
Thank you. I don't know. So I think for both of us, we had a really great, like her parents provided, I think, a great foundation for her, and I think my parents did the same for me. My parents, we had their 50th wedding anniversary last year, and what did my parents want to do? The only thing they wanted was to get their kids, all their, my wife, my sister's husband, and get all our grandkids together and go to Disneyland. So that's the only thing they wanted, and I think I had I was very grounded by my family, and I think my wife was very grounded by her family. She has 5 sisters. They all live in Brazil. Her parents celebrating there, I think they're in the high 40s this year. So I think for us, we both wanted the same things. And even though people would see me as, oh, you're Tom Brady, you have this and that and this and that, I don't certainly see myself that way from the inside looking out. And I don't think my wife sees herself from the outside looking in. She sees herself from the inside looking out. So what was important to her, what was important to me is our family and our relationship. And at different times, like any married couple, things need to be changed. And, there was, a couple of years ago, we had, she didn't feel like I was doing my part for the family. And she felt like I would play football all season, and she would take care of the house. And then all of a sudden, when the season would end, I'd be like, great, let me get into all my other business activities. Let me get into, my football training. And she's sitting there going, well, when are you going to do things for the house? When are you going to take the kids to school and do that? Right. And that was a big part of our marriage that I had to, check myself. Because she's like, I have goals and dreams too. It's just not to, do these things either. So you better start, taking care of things at the house. So 2 years ago, as it related to even football for me, I had to make a big transition in my life to say, I can't do all the things that I wanted to do for football like I used to. I need, I got to take care of things in my family because my family, the situation wasn't great. She wasn't satisfied with our marriage. So I needed to make a change in that.
I'm telling you, it's that narcissism where you think the whole world revolves around you and you're entitled to do whatever you want. But, when you're a football player and you're used to being catered to and you're the most famous football player in the world, you can get caught up in that. And then when your wife says, hey, you need to take the garbage out and drive the kids to school, you get resentful and you go, don't you know who I am,
Yeah. Well, her point was, well, yeah, of course this works for you. It all works for you.
Right.
But it doesn't work for me. Because you can get caught up in your life where you think a relationship is great because it only works for you. And the point of a relationship, it has to work for both. But a lot of, you better work on both because if you don't, then ultimately it's not sustainable.
When she first said that to you, Tom, when she first said that to you, were you resentful and couldn't really hear what she was saying? Did you go to a family therapist to hear what she's saying? Because guys are the worst at hearing. Did you? Yeah, we went to a marriage therapist.
She actually wrote me a letter, and it was a very thought out letter that she wrote it to me, and I still have it, and I keep it in a drawer, and I read it, and it's a very heartfelt letter for her to say this is where I'm at in our marriage, and. It's a good reminder for me that things are going to change and evolve over time. What happened and what worked for us 10 years ago won't work for us forever, because we're growing in different ways. And, I'm influenced by different people and situations. So is she. We're not together all the time. Then when you come back together, she may have moved on an opinion or a feeling or a thought. I may have moved on an opinion or feeling or thought. And then how do you figure out a way to get it together? But for me, a healthy marriage wasn't what always worked for me. It was really, and it shouldn't be what always works for her. So even, there's family decisions that are made, and I think for men, most men want to focus on their career. And it's very easy for men to focus on their career.
Right.
And I think maybe the benefit of playing football is there actually is an off season, where it's not, you're not the CEO of a company where you got to work year round. Because that.
But I could imagine for you when you're playing football. I mean, this is why I say to myself, man, I'm surprised Tom didn't stay a single guy because, in a way, you're so hyper focused on your training, staying healthy, really learning the plays, and really figuring this thing out, bonding with your teammates. That there really is no room for a family in a lot of ways, and and then you go to your wife and you go, hey, listen. I got to bring home the bacon here or something, and in order for me to do this, you got to just leave me alone. That's where it all falls apart.
Yeah, I didn't want to have kids or get married until my late 30s. I mean, that was the plan. I remember thinking, I don't want anything to get in the way. Once my football career kind of got rolling, I thought in my mind, why don't I just wait till I'm basically done playing, which I thought would be my late 30s, and then I'll figure out. The rest from there, but that wasn't in the plan. So I had my oldest son when he was in 2007, and then I fell in love with my wife, and things changed, and then they changed way for the better because I found a wife and a woman that I saw myself with for the rest of my life, and she's been an amazing supporter in everything I've done. And, she's just, she has she's a loving wife that tries to nurture the kids and our family and me, and she wants to take good care of me. But she also is a very hardworking. She wants to save everybody. She wants to be a great influence on the world, and she came from the south of Brazil. And I think what I learned about our marriage too was, I grew up in the United States, and when you only grow up in that, you just think this is all there is to the world, the United States. And then I married a woman from South America, and then you realize it's not just about the United States; it's about the Brazilian culture as well. So then you are not just a U.S. citizen. In essence, you're a global citizen, because I married a woman who cares about Brazil as much as I cared about the United States. And
how'd you fall in love with her? Where do you? All of us would like to meet someone as hot as Giselle. How do you meet someone like that? Give us a tip. How do we get a Giselle?
A tip.
Yeah.
How do you get Giselle? Well,
how do you get her?
Find a Giselle. So I got introduced to her by a mutual friend, and I would say it was a quote unquote a blind date, although it wasn't blind because obviously I knew what she looked like. No. And it was in December of 2006 where we met.
Wait, Tom. In other words, you're telling me.
Yeah.
This friend, and we should all have a friend like this. He says to you, Tom, you got to hear this. Giselle is interested in dating you or meeting you. I'm going to set this thing up. This is some friend. Am I correct?
Yeah, I thank him to this day. And I had gotten out of a relationship, and she had been out of a long-term relationship that she had. So when we met, we were both. I wasn't quite sure if I was ready for a relationship. I didn't think I was, but we met and then we hit it off, and he told me, he's like, you should meet this girl. Like she's an amazing girl, and she, in a lot of ways she's a lot like you. And then he told her, you got to meet this guy, because I'd known him for 3 years, and he's a lot, he's a male version of you. And she was like, well, I'd like to meet him. And then we met.
Where do you go to meet? Do you just call her up? Did you just call her up and say, listen, let's go out?
So I called her. Yeah, I called her, and then we met at this wine bar called Turks and Frogs in the West Village. And she used to live on West 11th on the West Side Highway. So I went down there, and then we met at this wine bar. And, we walked in. I was sitting there, and then she walked in, and then when she sat down, and obviously I thought she was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen in my life.
And when you go to a wine bar, though, and you're but when you're at a wine bar and you're Tom Brady, is everyone watching this date like, oh shit, look at this guy?
No, it was a little different at that time because, you're in New York City in 2006, so there wasn't really the camera phones and so forth. So, it was. I'm sure we were recognizable, but I think New York people are a little more, less intrusive. And then we were kind of sitting in a corner. I don't think you could have saw us too much at that point. When two people, we were sitting close to one, I would say. Now I would say it's a hell of a lot different.
Yeah,
where we go, and we got to kind of navigate that a lot differently than we used to.
It was kismet. Love at first sight.
What's that mean?
Love at first sight. I mean, when you, and that was it.
No. Yes and no.
Yeah. I was going to say, for both of you?
I don't know if it was love at first sight, because we were, we had to get to know each other too. So, there was definitely a connection that there still is today. And then as we got to know each other, I think within a few months, within a few months we thought, like, all right, like this is going to be pretty serious. And then it was a magical part of our life. She was everything that I was looking for in a wife.
Tom, when you know how you prepare for a game, and you even like for an interview, you prepare. You're Mr. Prepared. So when you meet a woman like Giselle and you are really interested, do you prepare? Do you find out everything you need to know about it? Do you come up with a game plan?
In that case, no, I really didn't, because it was a very casual time, it was after a game, so I went down there, and it was just, I was looking forward to meeting her because, my friend said you should meet this girl, and at the same time, like I said, I was just getting out of a relationship, so for me, it wasn't like I was, so ready for, to look for, a different person, but she just came into my life at the right time. And it was it was an interesting time because we found out after that my ex-girlfriend was pregnant with my oldest son.
Right.
And I think that was a very, we were forced into this very important thing that was happening in our life at a new part of our relationship. So in a lot of ways, I found out a lot about Giselle through this experience. She found out a lot about me dealing with, a situation that was, I would say, a very, not I would say a very easy one, in the sense that it was, not.
Oh, man. Tom, I can't even imagine starting a relationship and then you have to say to your new girlfriend, oh, by the way, I'm having a kid with, someone else.
Yeah.
Most women would have left, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That was very, that had its challenges. And I didn't think I was going to have kids for another 10 years, And next thing I found out that, Bridget was pregnant with our son. And, so that was a very unique time, and it was a very, challenged me in a lot of ways to again grow up in a different way, and it was very hard for my wife to, think that she fell in love with this guy, and then now this guy's, his ex-girlfriend's pregnant, and it was very challenging for my son's mom, because she didn't envision that either. But I think we all made the best of the situation, and fortunately, he's the most amazing son at 12 years old. I mean, the kid's my son Jack is there's my heart explodes when I think of him. I mean, he's the greatest kid you could ever ask for.
Tom, it's an amazing life, and I was really pumped up to talk to you. I mean, I have a billion questions, and fascinating life, and I was even thinking about how good looking you are. I was like, you have it all. You got the movie star looks. Has anyone ever offered you to do some acting and do movies? Because I was thinking about even with OJ. OJ was a horrible actor. But he went into it, and you know what? They even offered him Terminator. I think he turned it down. He was the original choice for Terminator, and he wasn't in all the airplane movies. I mean, athletes have done that. Have you ever been offered a movie?
Yeah. No, not in I've been in a few over the years. I've never done private parts, something like that where I was the star. But that was a great movie. You actually are an amazing actor, because I love that movie. And
Thank you.
But that's a talent, and that's a gift to be able to do it. And if you were to do something, if I was to ever entertain that, I would have to work really hard at it. I wouldn't say that's the most natural thing for me to do those things. So I've tried them, but it doesn't ever feel like that's my calling or anything. So
was Saturday Night Live a torture for you?
No, that was fun. I really enjoyed that. I really loved that part because it was very similar to football. You start preparing earlier in the week. They write everything. You go through the scripts with the different writers. Everyone plays a role. You practice. You throw things out. You build on things, and then ultimately you have this live moment. And I was almost sad when it ended. I remember going up the elevator after the after party, and I was thinking in my mind, how much fun that actually was. Because even if you were to ever do it again, it would never be the same way as the first time.
Right.
And that was a really cool thing.
I heard a cool thing about you.
I'll never forget that.
I heard that when you were hosting Saturday Night Live, they offered to like work around your football schedule or whatever the hell was going on in your life, and you said to them, no, I want to do what everyone else does. I want to go to full rehearsals. You don't have to fly me back and forth. I'm going to spend the week in New York, and I'm going to really take this thing seriously, and that's admirable. Did you pass on any sketches?
Yeah.
Do these guys ever want you to do stuff and you just go, fuck you, I'm not doing that, I got an image?
I think some of it, I would think that I wouldn't be comfortable doing some of it. I don't know if it was any of those sketches. At that time, I was probably more like, yeah, cool, I'll do whatever. But now, obviously, I would think a lot differently about how it reflects, because in today's day and age, the media culture is a lot different, and I think everyone now is so careful with everything they say and do, and unfortunately, there's not a lot of trust between an individual and the media like there probably used to be, and I think so you have to be careful, because if something gets missaid or misconstrued, it undoes so much that, in essence, if you're trying to be a good role model or good, you don't want something to take away from that, so you got to just be, you got to live a very different life, than when I was growing up.
Because you're Tom Brady, the greatest of all time, tell us now, when will it be safe to go outside again? When is this whole thing going to be over with? I mean, what's going on? Hey, you know what else I had to talk to you about? Because you probably could relate to this. I'm talking about Trump for a minute. You and I think you have a friendship with Trump. I mean, before, him becoming president, I did too. I mean, I have I have tremendous affection for Trump. We used to do radio shows together, have fun. He came to my wedding and all this kind of thing. And, I don't know where you're at politically, but it was weird because there was a time when Donald called me up and said, hey, I want you to speak at the Republican convention. And Donald can be very forceful, and it was like, it was weird, because I was actually a Hillary Clinton supporter. I was really into her, and it was awkward for me because he was asking me to do that, and I had to say no to him, and it's not an easy thing to do to somebody who's been, kind to you. Has he?
Yeah.
Did you get asked the same thing? I would imagine he wanted you to endorse him.
Yeah. Well, he wanted me to speak at that convention, too, and I think that I wasn't going to do anything political because I met him in 2001, and it was probably very similar to our relationship that you had with him, Like I met him in 2001. In 2002, he asked me after I won my first Super Bowl to go judge a Miss USA competition, which I thought was the coolest thing in the world because I was 24 years old and I had a chance to do something like that. I never thought in a million years, I couldn't imagine what would come along with being a pro athlete in the Super Bowls. And then he just, in a way, he would call me after games and I watch your game, Tom, and come, let's play golf together. So 2003, 2004, it was just that's kind of the way it was. And he would golf, and then he became someone that he would come up to our games and stand on the sideline with, he'd cheer for the Patriots, and he always had a way of connecting with people and still does, but and then the whole political aspect came, and I think I got brought into a lot of those things because it was so polarizing around the election time that was uncomfortable for me because you can't undo things, and not that I would undo a friendship but the political support is totally different than the support of a friend.
Right. And what do you do? Like, when you tell him no, I won't speak at the Republican convention? Was he pissed at you? I mean, how awkward was that for you? I imagine you get asked to do a lot of stuff.
I thought that was, that made me, I wasn't going to support, I didn't want to get into all the political, because again, it's
a no-win.
50% of the people feel there's zero win in anything in regards to that, because what works, it's politics. So, the whole political, realm right now is it's been very, I'm a person from my standpoint is to embrace leadership. Like I said, I got brought together in a locker room where I was always trying to get along with everybody, and I feel like when in an outward sense, when you start talking about politics, it's about how do you not bring people together, which is the opposite of what politics should have always been, in our country. So I can only relate to it as, from my profession, leadership, responsibility, is about, embracing the whole and trying to bring people together to lead them to a common goal. And I think now it's just, there's a lot of different agendas and goals and,
did teammates ever get pissed off at you, though? Did teammates ever get pissed off at you for your relationship with?
No, never, because they know me, they know who I am. I was with them every day, so
Tom,
it's different than
the other big thing was. But Tom, the other big thing was that Trump always dreamed of you marrying Ivanka, and he told me he suggested it to you. But did you ever take him? Did you ever go out with her?
That was a long time ago. That was a long time ago in my life. So
did you consider it?
Did I consider dating her?
Yeah.
No, there was never that where we ever dated or anything like that. But I have a daughter, so I want my daughter to. Would I ever arrange my daughter?
I know it's weird.
For somebody, I don't know.
But Trump wanted that.
Weird. I think if you're.
No, but he wanted Tom Brady to, let's face it, bang Ivanka and form a relationship, a power dynasty. You know that. I'm not making that up.
I don't know. I don't know if that. He never suggested that to me.
I think he said it on my show.
Did he? Well,
I think he wanted you two to breed. I have tape.
I need some. I need the tape on that.
I'm going to send it to you.
Look, it all worked out for me anyway. I married the woman of my dreams, so it worked out.
Right. No, it all worked out fine. I mean, I understand, but I could see you rather than Jared Kushner, with Ivanka, honestly. I really could.
I think I married the most amazing woman, and so I have no regrets.
Good answer. Tom, the reason I never went into athletics, and I'm going to be totally upfront with you. I didn't get a lot of encouragement, but also I was nervous in the locker room being nude. Honestly, I didn't want guys to see my penis. Was that ever an issue for you? Do you ever sit there and go, in the beginning, I'm not comfortable being nude in front of other dudes and seeing their penises?
No, you get used to it. I mean, when you figure it out, every guy's penis looks the exact same. So, in essence, you just. I mean,
you're telling me Gronk looks like
a man's a man.
But you're saying Gronk didn't have the biggest schlong on the planet?
I mean, I think Gronk is. I mein, that guy's like a Greek god. His body, and that guy's just jacked up. So he's got a great physique. So,
but the other players don't. But Tom, the other players don't goof on a guy who has a small. I have a really small penis. You know that. You're a fan. I can't imagine standing there and the guy's not saying, "Hey, did you see Stern?" I mean, guy's a great receiver, but Jesus Christ, I mean, what's going on there? He's practically a woman. You know what I mean? Guys don't.
I think guys probably, if they're very, very well endowed, they probably get made more fun of than the other guys. Yeah, so the guys would hide it, and there's certain guys that would have to hide, getting in the shower because they were embarrassed because they were just,
Yeah, when I was in gym class, I always kept my underwear and shorts on, and the other guys were showering, and I wouldn't shower. I just stink the whole day in school. It was embarrassing.
I know. If you think about today's day and age, too, how different that is. Because when we were, 25 years ago, it was so natural to do that. And now the idea of a bunch of people showering together, you kind of think, why are we still doing this? I mean, this is so not the way that it should be anymore. Can we put up some dividers, please? And then you go into locker rooms that are newer and they have those, and you're like, oh, this is so much more comfortable. So there was a time. It's actually funny because I think they still let reporters into the locker room. So it would be funny because Gronk would get naked and literally throw his towel over his shoulder and just walk through the locker room with all the reporters. And I would just laugh because, Gronk obviously, he didn't give a shit, but he's he strut through.
That's the greatest part of football, isn't it? Like the camaraderie and the hijinks, and really the teammates. Gronk walking around with his cock out, and I mean, it really is kind of a brotherhood that I've never known. It's crazy
because you're still, in a lot of ways, you can still act like you're in high school, and there's a part of that where there's